It's kind of crazy to think back to what year one was like for Marvel Contest Champions.
You know, when we started out, like we had, I don't know, like 15 characters in the game plus adaptoids.
It was a super small team. And for the most part, we were pretty much flying by the seat of our pants from build to build, even all the way up to release. And then, you know, after that, it was pretty nuts.
Lead and regen was really like the foundation of our ability system.
We used to make jokes that we would never put somebody in the game that like had fire, so there was no concept of Ghost Rider or even Human Torch, obviously.
You rewind 5 years ago, like what the game was. Like it was a prototype that we called Sausage Fighter, which was super funny to look at because it was all these kind of like cylinder characters fighting each other. And then it was really trying to figure out how do you handle touch control on mobile.
We went to back and forth, you know, how cartoony, how realistic, you know, well, what is this game? We're trying to figure it out.
We lean really heavily into the story, and we have such a deep story with this game.
It was very experimental and exploratory, and a lot of it came from people just saying like, you know, wouldn't it be cool if?
You know, we'd really hit it at the first Comic-Con. We had MCOC playing on big screens for our booth. And for the most part, most people that came up actually thought it was a console game. So that's definitely when we knew, okay, cool, we have now set the bar for AAA games on mobile.
The first batch of characters had their style already, the signature style of contest. But as we did it, we started doing more and more, we started getting much better at it.
We're building this off such a small team. So when the game finally released in that first month, and we started to see the number of installs coming to the game.
Hundreds of thousands and like only increasing.
That was the big moment where we were like, wow.
Whoa.
Okay, we gotta do more.
Even before like all this like metrics or whatever came through, I saw people connecting to it and I was just like, okay, we might have this game, you know, for a long time.
We really didn't realize how big of a hit it was until worldwide launch. It was huge.
Millions of people start like actually interacting with stuff that you come to work and do every day.
Just millions of players like downloading and installing the game, playing the game, like talking about the game. And that was really a wow moment on how quickly it kind of took off.
We had such an overwhelming response with so many people knocking down the door to play the game.
Like this is a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Like very exciting, but like, oh wow, like there are tons of people seeing this.
Oh, this is insane to see like how many more people are jumping on board, getting excited, telling their friends. It's like watching like a wildfire.
So it was pretty quickly after release, like when we realized we had a hit on our hand, it then immediately turned into, okay, we're a live game. Like what is that next thing we need to do to kind of push the envelope and keep players playing the game?
What we found is that everybody loved the content so much and we're enjoying it and just eating it up. It was fantastic. So we pulled everyone together from game designers to artists to marketers to QA people and really just started this engine and kept it, you know, add more fuel to the fire.
One of the first things we added after launch was signature abilities, which dramatically increased the value of acquiring more champions. That drove up their value a ton, which was huge for players. Synergies were also something we added really, really early, which now gave players like a reason of building a team, right? You know, it's Contest of Champions plural, and so we gave them a reason to, hey, build out those families and those teams. Masteries was another one of those things that we added after launch to really figure out, it was kind of that meta level on top of champions, right? Like what are new gameplay aspects or what are new class identities that we can add to the game to kind of further drive the strategy within the game. So alliances were probably one of the biggest features we've ever added to the game, and still to this day, it's our core. And it finally took the game and it went from a very solo kind of isolated experience to now, hey, you're within a community. And then post alliances, we added alliance quests and alliance wars, which now turned that in from, you know, just a community of players together to now adding that cooperative and that competitive landscape, which we now have today.
At the time, what we were looking at was, oh, people have these teams where they can achieve 100% block rate. And, you know, sure, our fault, but we were like, okay, well, everyone's doing this, how do we play against this? So there's a lot of things like that where the kind of the proof is in the pudding of like, we were thinking about like, okay, what's the biggest meta right now? We need to counter that. But I'd say that, you know, the philosophy, certainly this year, something we've tried to move towards more is like broadening what kind of champions you're using. So, you know, we use quests to push like, hey, we want you to bring like power drain or armor break, like specific archetypes, not necessarily super narrow, but more like broad ability usage.
Like in the past, we wanted to build a challenging content, a challenging act or story content. We were primarily accomplishing that by increasing PI values, attack and health, essentially increasing roll numbers and pairing champions with much simpler blocks, honestly, like enhanced abilities. But I think after the realization that our players are so passionate and they are exceeding us, they're excelling at the game so fast, we really had to catch up with that and came up with new ways of challenging our players.
So after like roughly 2 years of releases and updating the game, we had to look at how can we kind of further elongate like the game's life cycle. And so that's obviously where 12.0 came out. And it was a huge technical change for our game. And we obviously learned like some pretty key do's and don'ts during that process, which we hold with us today. So Champion Reworks is one of those things that we want to continue on. As we continue to push the envelope on champions on the art front and the technical front, is also ensuring that we take those original launch characters from 5 years ago and kind of bring them back up to modern tech. And while we don't rework every single champion, Synergies has been one of those ways that we've been able to kind of breathe new life into collections. So some of those older champions you have now have a place on a team with modern champions and giving them new powers and new abilities sometimes.
Early on, a lot of the design was what could we do? And now that we have so much flexibility, it's a little bit more conceptual. What would be fun? What have players not seen before?
We've added even more, and now we have these sort of like persistent charges, and so now we're able to start building mechanics that are carrying across whole quests or from one fight to the next. And so we're starting to be able to expand and add these extra layers so that what you did in the last fight might matter into this fight.
We look at like, hey, what's something that we can do to improve the experience, to make more champions viable, to, if you have a favorite that you never get to use because they're super out of the meta, like how can we kind of bring that back in? Stuff like the back issues are an example of, okay, we want to highlight a specific play style or archetype or character.
Monthly event quests were definitely one of those big game-changing moments where Age of Ultron was one of the first ones, Ant-Man, the Moon Knight Waning Moon was some of our first ones, and it's now something that today is kind of like, it's expected. Like every single month you're going to have a new event quest, but we rewind 5 years ago, we never even had these.
What really changed is our thinking and also some design philosophy.
It's kind of an ever-evolving thing. I would say there's no really one strict rule. It's very much like we try to be as both proactive and reactive as possible.
We really try to focus a lot on skill play, like in general, because that's one thing our high-end players value a lot as well.
I love the fact that like 7-year-old me is constantly high-fiving myself in my head because I get to play around with Marvel lore and Marvel characters and work with other creative people who are very similar to me. And also being a huge fan of like fighting games growing up, getting into anything that even resembles that sort of combat is insane.
It's the people, honestly. We're super lucky, for myself especially, to be able to come and work with some of the most passionate and talented individuals all on one project. You have everyone from Gabe, who's the visionary of what the Battlerealm is and where it's going, to our incredibly strong design teams who are kind of pushing the envelope on characters and systems, which is really cool, to even our engineering staff, our QA staff, who are keeping the game up and keeping it stable. That's why I come to work. It's because I'm being pushed to perform better because the people around me are so incredibly talented.
I get to make something that millions of people like, and that's a pretty amazing feeling. It's something you have to step back and think about now and then, and I try to get that perspective as often as I can. I also have just an incredible group of people to work with. Like my own immediate team are really fantastic, super hardworking. I often tell people like they're all smarter than me. The reason I'm in the lead position is because they do better work than me, so it's better for me to be managing them.
I want to thank you, the players, for sticking around and playing the game. You folks are so dedicated to the game, and really that's makes it possible for us to do our job and continue to roll out cool stuff for you.
It's pretty incredible. MCOC is 5 years in, and I think there's more ambition on the roadmap than there was at launch, and we finally have the power to make that stuff happen.
Our priority is to keep the show going. Expect to see a lot of the stuff you're very used to. Like we want to keep, monthly events aren't going anywhere. The side events aren't going anywhere. We still love making those. We love telling the stories with our new characters and like highlighting them for you.
We have a ton of content coming, a ton of new characters coming, characters that you never even thought would be in this game. We've got ones that you guys have been asking for forever.
We've already planned out half of 2020 for the events that are coming out. We think they've got a lot of good stuff in there that players will be really excited about.
We want to try out new stuff. We always have ideas for new ways to run side events. Like we've already got some really creative stuff lined up for 2020. We're always planning super far ahead.
We want to continue to give our content creators and our players tools to help educate other players. And while pushing our communications, we started being able to work with influencers and content creators
We've created beta tests, an entire beta testing environment, so we can get player input before anything goes live. We started roundtables. We have constant discussions between our developers and our players going on many channels now. And this is something that we need to keep doing and will keep doing. And it's been great for both our players and our game.
A cool new system that'll help players figure out where they need to go to get what they need. What we call the resource CTA system. It's mainly meant for new and kind of mid-tier players where it's like, where do I get T4 basic? You can click on the icon and it will take you to a location in the game where you can actually get it.
One of our priorities is creating a much easier to access beta server to give our developers easier access to betas, as well as some of our content creators to help them make more videos to help educate you.
We're 5 years in and we're only getting stronger.
We're 5 years in and we're only getting stronger.
We are 5 years in.
5 years in,
We're 5 years in,
We're only getting stronger.
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 and we're only getting stronger.
5 anos de torneio e a gente tá cada vez mais forte.
Oyunumuz 5 yıllık ve de giderek daha da güçleniyor.
We're 5 years in and we're only getting stronger.
We're 5 years in and we're only going to keep getting stronger.
5 years in, we're only getting stronger.